Chris Lodgson, Christopher Lodgson, representing hashtag ADOS Sacramento, hashtag ADOS California. Yes, so AB 3121 is a task force to study and develop reparations for African Americans. It is a California State Assembly bill that is right now moving its way through the state of California, the Assembly. Uh, we had a tremendous week last week. The bill moved and was moved out of the Judiciary Committee. Got some footage of that. And this week and following up, we are doing all the behind the scenes work that has to happen in preparation for upcoming hearings. So we're expecting new hearings in the Appropriations Committee sometime in June. We don't know exactly when, early to mid to possibly late June. So right now we're just getting ready. Behind the scenes, we do a bunch of organizing meetings and preparation and calls and all kinds of other stuff, research and all kinds of stuff. So that's what we're up to now. We're preparing for the next hearings. We're preparing to reach out to legislators directly in and around those hearings as well. So that way we are making our case fully, both to the legislators that are going to be on the Appropriations Committee and the legislators that are going to be ultimately voting when this bill gets to the floor of the Assembly, which we expect it to very, very soon. So the bill AB 3121, which is a task force to develop and study reparations proposals for African Americans, was authored by Assembly member Dr. Shirley Weber of San Diego. She's also the chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus. She is the prime principal author on the bill, as well as Senator Stephen Bradford, and I believe Senator Holly Mitchell as well. As well as the entire California Legislative Black Caucus, the entire California Legislative Black Caucus (CLBC) is a sponsor on the bill as well. The bill right now is being run specifically by staff for Dr. Assembly Member Shirley Weber, Victoria Harris by name. So that's who's running the bill. That's who we have most of our contact with, in addition to staff from the CLBC. Janelle Jackson is another amazing staffer that we connect with and that we work with pretty closely and have been working with pretty closely for over a year now. So we make our way and our fight through a lot of different angles, right? Whether it be working through the staff, working through the authors of the bill, working through the caucus itself, working through our own community. We're really trying to attack this from all different angles. So, as you may or may not know, the bill has gotten some attention from California-based media, specifically California Black media. I want to shout out California Black media, and Regina Wilson and her team at California Black Media for following this issue and for shedding a light on it through California's Black media, specifically the Sacramento Observer. There was a story last week, the big headline, "Win for Reparations," right? So there's been some coverage of this in local media, not a lot. And I wouldn't, I don't have a specific answer as to why this hasn't been covered more. It possibly because we're in the early stages of the bill's movement, right? So folks may just be waiting to see. Some folks may think it may not happen, and so it may not be worth their time to cover. I think that they will be dead wrong, but that may be also part of it. But I really can't tell you why there hasn't been a bunch of media coverage on this in terms of the traditional media, other than what we've seen from California Black media. But I can tell you that this has gotten tremendous traction online, on social media. That's the way we communicate anyway, as far as the ADOS movement. Mostly is through online channels, chats, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, right? So on social media, we've gotten a lot of traction, a lot of response. This has gotten national attention actually on social media. If you check, Twitter, we've gotten retweets from Antonio Moore, founder of one of the co-founders of the ADOS movement. We've got retweets from Dr. William Sandy Darity. We've got hundreds of comments, hundreds of retweets, hundreds of shares on Facebook, Instagram, same thing, hundreds of reposts. So there is a lot of traction digitally. Not so sure about why it hasn't gotten so much traction sort of above ground in that traditional media sector, but we still fight. So this week, Mr. Joe Biden put his foot in his mouth in an interview with Charlemagne the God and made the comment that if you are still trying to figure out whether or not to vote for him or Trump, you ain't black. First of all, it was a very disrespectful comment. This is personally offended by it. We know the Democratic Party, presidential candidates, and many other kinds of candidates take our votes for granted. It's part of the reason why the ADOS movement exists, to be honest with you. Is to stop that kind of thing. But Biden, I think, just sort of let it out. I think he was, I don't think it was disrespectful. I thought he was very, very comfortable, a little bit too comfortable. I don't think that's the first time he said that or the first time he's heard that. Just by how comfortable he was saying it, and that's the problem. I'm offended by his words, but I'm more offended by the so-called black agenda that he submitted sometime a week or so ago, called the Lift Every Voice Act, which is supposed to be a black agenda, but it's not a black agenda. So while I'm offended by his words with Charlemagne, I'm more offended by his lack of action and his lack of a black agenda. He called his plan the Lift Every Voice Act. That's an ode to our people. That's an ode to our own anthem, right? As a people, lift every voice and sing. And so he titled his agenda that. Called it a black agenda, but when you actually open it up and read it, which is what the ADOS movement is very good at doing, opening it up and reading your agenda, okay, and making some sense of it. It was not a black agenda. It was a POC agenda. It was all lives matter, universal policy fits all, rising tide lifts all boats, classic bait and switch policy, just with the flavor or the title. Will lift every voice. So I was more offended by that, to be honest with you. Joe Biden has a snowball chance in hell of getting my vote, and I think there's a snowball chance in hell of getting the majority of the ADOS vote, at least as it stands right now. Joe Biden had a tough hill to climb anyway, as the father and architect of what we call now the mass incarceration system. One of the fathers, one of the architects. Somebody who was really pushing. He was, as Yvette Carnell said on one of her shows this week, on Breaking Brown, he was pushing Reagan to be tougher. Okay, even Reagan didn't want to do some of the stuff that Joe Biden was talking about. Okay, so just give you a sense of who this guy was, and since then he's shown no remorse. He has no policy fix, and as a matter of fact, his policy makes it worse. So that's my thoughts on Joe Biden. No, neither candidate for president, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, has mentioned reparations for ADOS in their platform for the presidency that I can tell. As a matter of fact, the last time I heard Trump talk about it was in a story in 2019, so last year, where he said something to the effect that he didn't see it happening. He thought the conversation was interesting, but he didn't see it happening. That was the last I heard Donald Trump mention the word reparations. As far as Joe Biden, I haven't heard him talk about reparations almost at all, and that's a problem. Right, that's the number one cornerstone issue, foundational issue for ADOS, for the movement, and so I expect that he will be on the record on reparations more and more as we get closer to the general election. But so far, I've heard almost nothing from him. I think he's been one of the candidates that's been sort of able to escape having to answer those questions. If you remember 2019, we were very successful as a movement in getting in front of candidates and getting in their faces. Shout out to J.B. Fowler in South Carolina, did a lot of groundbreaking work following candidates at events, getting the mic in their face and saying, what are your thoughts on reparations? Joe Biden has been able to escape that, I think largely because his campaign has been keeping him away from a lot of press, one, and then a lot of black press for sure too. Obviously, you can tell this week they were smart to keep him away from the press. But he's been able to escape, and I don't think it'll last much longer. But I haven't heard much from him on the issue or talk or the issue of reparations, and almost at all. And that's a big problem. That is, again, the cornerstone foundational issue of the ADOS movement. For sure. So Chris does ADOS politics in Sacramento on YouTube. Chris does ADOS politics in Sacramento on Twitter as well. Chris Lodgson, ChrisLodgson on Facebook. ADOS Sacramento on Facebook as well. Sacramento ADOS on Facebook as well, and on Instagram. So check us out.